Hey, I want to tell y'all something before we get started. Yesterday, a utility company man came back to my place, and he was checking on something. I can't even remember what it was, but it was one guy, and he drove up. I walked out of my office, and there I have 4 dogs standing there beside me. And he walks up and he says, "How y'all doing?" Now, after he left, I got to thinking, only in Mississippi would a man walk up, face one man and 4 dogs, and consider the whole group a y'all. That's Mississippi. That's why I love it. I love it down here. All right, let's tell some Bigfoot stories. Y'all ready? All right, here we go. Hey, before I dive off into this first story, what I'm doing these days is whenever I get 10 or 15 minutes free, I'll pull up a story and narrate it real quick and then throw it off in a file so I have it ready for when I have time to do a video. So what's happening is the next few videos that I put out, I don't know what order these stories are going to be in, so usually you say something before and after, what the first story is, and I usually know what the last story is. But in this case, I don't know. So it may sound kind of weird, but the stories are still the same. They're still awesome. But I just wanted you to know that. I'm trying to streamline this process, and that's all I'm doing. Okay, let's get into the first one. A long time ago, when I was 11, a friend and I were fishing down at the creek. It was getting late and about time to pack up and get home. I got a bite, so I threw my bait a few more times. My buddy was all packed up and said that he would wait for me on the trail up the hill. A few more casts and no bites, so I was ready to get out of there. Something picked me up. Its arm was covered in thick hair like a shaggy dog. I thought it was someone in a gorilla suit playing a prank on me. He put me over his right shoulder like your dad would when you were little, and he started walking into the woods. I wasn't scared. I wasn't going to let whoever this was get a kick out of me being afraid. Holding on to his head with my left hand as he held my legs to his chest, I relaxed and enjoyed the ride. When the shock of the whole thing wore off, I looked to the ground and saw the hair covered its whole body. This wasn't a gorilla suit, and I was very high off the ground. After several minutes of walking in the woods, I started to wonder who was doing this and where we were going. It was getting dark and didn't look like we were headed towards my house. We rounded the corner of the hillside, and I saw 3 more of these creatures. One looked like a mother, and there were 2 smaller ones about my size. He put me down on the ground in a small nook or entrance into a pile of trees. It was open in the middle. It almost looked like the trees had fallen that way, but after being inside, I knew this structure had been built. It was a hideout. The ground was covered in long grass. It felt comfortable in there. Almost a warm, welcoming feel to it. The thing that had taken me entered the structure and sat down looking back out the opening. The mother started feeding us all some berries and some kind of root. None of it was very good. It was dark now. The creatures began to settle in the middle of the hideout, and they all laid down and went to sleep. I was glad to see this. I waited a few more minutes, then climbed out of the tangled brush pile and started home in the pitch black. It took all night to find my way out of the woods, and when I finally made it home, it was just getting daylight. When I walked into our yard, I saw several men standing there talking to my father. The police were there too. They were relieved to see me and started asking questions. The evening before, my buddy had gone back to find me when I had not shown up on the trail. He found my fishing gear laying on the bank. He rushed to get my father, and they returned to look for me in the woods. The men now standing in our yard were gathering at my house to go hunt for me again. Some of them had tracking dogs. I told my dad and the police what had happened. One of the policemen looked at my father and said that he believed me. The crowd dispersed and we went inside, and my mother fed me. The rest of the day was hard to remember. After that, no one ever asked me about it again. Not my dad, my mom, or the police. It was so long ago that it seems like a dream, but I know it happened. I don't think my dad ever believed me, and there is still this nagging feeling all these years later that it really was a prank. I also wonder if there was something they knew and were not telling me. But what I know for sure is that something picked me up that day and carried me through the woods for a long time. I don't know what it was, but I think I do. You know what's better than narrating these stories? It's reading them. I love it when I'm caught up at work and I can just sit back and browse through my inbox and start reading through these stories. You know, that is one of the biggest benefits of doing this. I get to read so many cool encounter stories that you all don't get to read. You're going to get to hear them. You're going to get to hear every one of them. But I get to sit here in the comfort of my big fat office chair and lean back and read these, and I love it. And this one is no exception. Some of these stories just take me away, and that's what I love about reading. And I hope you enjoy this. I think you're going to like it. The writer is from New Jersey. She doesn't really say whether to give her name or not, so I'm not going to. But she writes, I had no idea it was a Bigfoot at the time. I believe it was one now. I live in the most populated state of the United States, and you would think that there's no place for a Bigfoot to roam freely in New Jersey, but evidently they do. We lived in South Jersey, not far from the Pine Barrens. The summer of the bicentennial, I was 17 years old. The 200-year celebration of our wonderful nation was just around the corner. Many towns were planning big parades and even bigger fireworks. I was looking forward to partaking in these celebrations. I had a reputation as a goody two-shoes and actually had been called this name by many of my friends. I had a problem, though, that could change all of that. I was smitten with a guy who was known as a bad boy. Although we were the same age, he had street smarts and I had none. He rode dirt bikes and was a rough-and-tumble type of fella. He already sported a few tattoos, and in those days, tattoos were not as popular as they are today. One of his tattoos was a skull with a knife through it, with blood dripping from the knife. This tattoo kind of frightened me, but he was nice to me, and that intrigued me. He would ride his dirt bike to my house on occasion to visit and to hang out. My mom would say, "Don't you ever get on that motorbike with him. You'll be in big trouble if I catch you doing that." I knew this tattoo would not go over well with my parents, so he did what I asked, and he would wear long sleeves when he came to visit me. I was the fifth of 7 children raised with the rules that were set forth by the bad behavior of my older siblings. I had to behave or else. Plus, I really didn't want to upset my dad, as I had already witnessed the punishment my older brothers had received from him. I wanted to remain the good girl. The Pine Barrens is a very large forested area, over 1 million acres, that stretches across more than 7 counties in New Jersey. The name Pine Barrens refers to the area's sandy, acidic, nutrient-poor soil. This area was also known as the Pine Lands. This vast area supports rare plant life, including orchids and carnivorous plants, as well as the pygmy pitch pines that depend on the frequent fires of the Pine Barrens to reproduce. This area was largely undisturbed despite its proximity to Philadelphia and New York City. My bad boy guy friend wanted to take me on the 4th of July to one of the fire towers located in the Pine Lands. We would climb up to the top and watch the small town's fireworks from 80 feet above the ground, and it is off limits to the public. I knew my parents would never give me permission to go, and this meant that I would have to lie. I told my mother that we would be attending a friend's barbecue. Lying to them made me uncomfortable. These were the days before cell phones and tracking, so I said yes to this crazy, exciting idea. We actually did go to the barbecue, but we left around 8 p.m. to head out to the location of the fire tower. We both jumped in his truck with dirt bike in the back. The events that were about to happen are seared into my memory forever. We drove for 25 minutes while the sun set slowly and the sound of firecrackers and pops could be heard in the distance. Once we left the paved road, the woods grew thicker and darker. This dirt road was a fire break that the Forest Service made to slow the spread of wildfires. We drove on this road for a few miles, and then Bad Boy pulled off the road and grabbed a small flashlight from the glove compartment of the truck and said, "Let's go, it's getting dark fast." I was jittery and nervous for disobeying my mother. I could hear her saying, "You'll be in big trouble if I catch you riding that motorbike." As I walked to the rear of the truck to help get the dirt bike out, I was rethinking my attire. I had on my new 4-inch high cork heel sandals and my frayed cut-off jeans. I think I was more concerned about looking cute than practical. And then Bad Boy asked, "Are those the only shoes you have with you?" "Yes," I said. He told me he would go slow and showed me where to place my feet on the bike. We would have to ride about 15 minutes through the forest before getting to the fire tower. I held on with my arms around his waist. He kick-started his bike and we were off. He was evidently familiar with these trails as we went deeper into the woods. I was thinking, if this is slow, I don't want to know what it feels like to go fast. But I was actually starting to enjoy the ride when we arrived at our destination. He shut off the dirt bike and we both climbed off. He shined the flashlight on the menacing fire tower. It was taller than I imagined. He said he thought it was 80 feet tall and couldn't wait for me to see the view. The fireworks were going to start soon and we needed to get up there. I cautiously proceeded in my 4-inch high cork heel sandals. The open stairs were in a zigzag format and they were steep. He put the flashlight on me so I could see where I was going. As we climbed, I asked if we were all allowed to be here. He said no, but not to worry because he and his dirt bike friends had been there many times and no one had ever said a word. A little more than halfway up, we heard a terrible scream come from the forest below. My first thought was that someone was being murdered down there. We stopped at the sounds and Bad Boy seemed concerned. He shined his flashlight below us. It was a small flashlight and we couldn't see the ground. We were really high up. We kept climbing thinking that we might be able to see better from the top. A sound came thundering through the woods below us. I can't describe it any better than to say that it sounded like something, maybe a bulldozer, was crashing through and running over trees, but there was no engine noise. At first it was far off, but it was getting closer to the tower. We froze in place. Bad Boy yelled up to me, "Turn around and let's start climbing down. We need to leave now." He was trying to hold the flashlight on my feet so I could see, but this process was causing us to go slower. I yelled down at him, "Just go!" The sound of the trees cracking was like gunfire, and at one point I believed it could have been gunfire. I was so horrified and shaking, trying to clench my toes tight to keep my shoes from falling off my feet, that I almost fell twice. Losing one shoe by accident and then kicking the other off on purpose helped me to go faster. We were close to the bottom and the noise stopped. Complete silence. This scared me as much as the noise. What was making the noise and where was it now? Not knowing where it was worse to me than the noise itself. It was so close and then all of a sudden it had stopped. I was so scared that I had trouble standing up. We made it to the dirt bike. I climbed on behind him while he was kick-starting the bike. That scream came out of the woods again close to us. It was louder, and whatever made the scream was right on us. I don't know if that was because we were at ground level or that it was really closer to us, but it vibrated through my body. I was about to pass out, and then the bike started. I found out what fast was really like on a dirt bike, and I didn't care. I was happy to be going fast. I closed my eyes tight and held on for dear life. We came to an abrupt stop. I opened my eyes. Bad Boy jumped off and hollered to me to hold up the bike, so I grabbed the handlebars and hurried to hold the bike up. He ran up ahead of us and began to drag a large branch out of the middle of the dirt trail. He cleared it just enough for us to skirt by. Racing all the way back to his truck, we both jumped off the bike. He threw me the keys and said, "Start the truck." I jumped in and without hesitation started the truck as he quickly got the dirt bike in the truck bed. Within a few seconds, he was driving us back to the paved road. I was trembling. My legs would not stop shaking. My bare feet were scratched and hurting. I kept looking back, half expecting something or someone to be following us. But we got closer to the paved road, and Bad Boy said, "That has never happened here before." What was going on back there? Of course, I had no answer. I asked him if we had taken another route back to the truck from the fire tower because I didn't remember a tree branch across the trail. He said that he had taken the exact trail back to the truck and the limb had not been there, and that it was not a dead limb. It was green and had been placed in our way. We both kept silent for the 30-minute ride home, listening to the distant crack and pops of the various towns' fireworks, with glimpses of sparkles in the night sky. This was the 4th of July that I would never forget. And as an epilogue, here's what she writes, and I love this. My Bad Boy turned out to be a good guy. I guess my goody two-shoes ways rubbed off on him. 40 years married and 2 daughters later, we are very happy. That skull and knife tattoo is now covered with a heart tattoo, and our daughters' names are in the heart. We have talked about this event in our lives, but my good guy is not sure it was a Bigfoot. He really doesn't have an explanation for what happened, but I think I do. Woohoo! What a story! Oh my gosh! Again, I had more fun reading that than I did narrating it, but I'm glad you all got to hear it. And mechanically, it's just the perfect story. I mean, I could go from beginning to end and tell you how she sets the stage, she introduces the characters. You actually get to know them. You know what kind of girl she is. You know what kind of guy he is or is perceived to be. The conflicts they have as they are dating, I guess, and then in this one event, tension is built, and then it comes to this huge peak, and then it trails off, and there are little intriguing tidbits in the story that make you wonder what's going on, and then there's just a happy ending. You just can't get any better than that. So thank you so much to the person who sent this in. Honestly, I don't know if you wanted me to say your name or not, but I hope you hear it, and I'll probably drop you an email and tell you what an awesome writer you are. But it's really good, and it was just wonderful, and I know everyone enjoyed it. Thanks. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you all for clicking on the video. I never ask people to subscribe because I figure you guys know how to do that. I just assume you're smart enough to do that. But there's a little feature on YouTube in my analytics. We get, as a creator, you get a little page and you get all kind of data. I don't understand half of it. But one thing I noticed was a lot of the people that comment over and over and over, and I love those comments, they're not even subscribed to the channel. And maybe you don't know how to do it. Maybe you're listening or watching on a device that doesn't allow you to click or whatever. But if you can, subscribe. That way you get a notification, and you click that little bell next to the subscribe button, then you'll get a notification whenever we put a new pile of stories out there. So I want to let y'all know that. I'm sorry I rambled on a lot in this video, but that was kind of on my mind. I want to let you know. Okay, once again, thanks for clicking on the video and listening this far. You're just the most awesome person in the world, and I love you. And we'll see you on the next video. All right, later.